Strange theories suggest that shadow people may be real. Novels about shadow people are some of the most chilling phenomena. No one knows exactly what and who they are, where they came from and why. However, reports of them being watched around the world continue. Even worse, it is increasing day by day. And of course, we need to take most of the suggestions on our topic seriously, because, frankly, the research on this issue is interesting and worth knowing. Now let's get back to our main topic and our first question. Who are the shadow people? This is where we will start our topic, and from where we will start. Did you spot a shadow at the end of your eye, and when you checked it suddenly disappeared? He is one of the shadow people. Perhaps the name shadow people gives us a clear definition of who they are. In other words, they can be defined as a human-shaped shadow that people usually see from the corner of their eyes for a short second. Then they disappear again at the same speed as they were observed. These characters are often watched for several days or weeks before events begin to escalate. The shadow people can then begin to get closer and clearer than the average person before disappearing at the last minute. And perhaps in other cases, you wake up and find a shadow person sitting or pressing your chest. Shadow people may be just a myth for most of us. However, the number of testimonies of people who claimed to have seen these strange entities should not be underestimated. Perhaps the most obvious explanation is that what people see is nothing but a ghost or a wandering soul lurking. This may be one of the most accepted answers, especially for those interested in paranormal and paranormal matters. It was observed that watching shadow people occur in parallel and along with a whole host of other supernatural activities. The launch of these mysterious entities may be a ghost, much more true than we think, especially when we notice that some of the observations talk about these mysterious figures are not full-featured characters. For example, only the head and shoulders can be seen, or just the legs. We also see that many of the people who reported seeing shadow people also talk about their backs not being complete. From another perspective, according to some researchers, the shadow people are aliens. What's more, they use some sort of advanced technology to hide their identity. Of course, many people find the idea of aliens absurd in itself. But back to the people who suffered an alleged alien abduction, and then back, we see that they often noticed strange shadows in the weeks before or after the kidnapping. Also, on some occasions, shadow people have been caught appearing suspiciously in CCTV recordings, other videos recorded during their appearance. By the way, the idea of making one invisible is a fat material in science fiction. There have been many long researches, theories, and experiments on this idea, but without explicit results. Another suggestion from some researchers. He sees that the people of the shadow are in fact the result of star drops of some people. In other words, the shadow is the essence of their energy, or to transfer their souls. The men, they claim, seem to have gone beyond simply leaving the body to see the next room. Some experiments have been shown, according to leaked documents. People are watching other planets from a distance. You might also not believe that the issue of star drops was an interesting issue for international intelligence agencies, especially with regard to the ghost killings, leaving no evidence or trace. And so, if the idea seems crazy to most of us, many people claim to be able to make it happen. What's more, these claims have been around for decades, if not centuries. Could it have a bearing on this phenomenon of shadow people? As with the idea of ghosts and aliens, many will also reject the idea of stellar projection. However, many interested scientists have conducted in-depth research on this topic. The results, while not conclusive, certainly suggest that the idea may have more of a share than many might think. But the prevailing idea of whether the stellar projection and the shadow people are related is a long and complex search in itself. And with this explanation, as we have said before, it is the most rational one. However, a broad class of people who assert that the people of the shadow are autonomous entities with which hypnagogy has nothing to do with it. Hypnagogia here means hypnotic hallucinations, sleepwalking or sleep paralysis. Perhaps the most rational explanation is that watching shadow people is just natural hypnosis. This mainly occurs when a person wakes up from their sleep while their body and brain remain in a state of sleep. This often leads to seeing imaginary scenes. Often, in this situation, a person cannot move. Many people feel completely paralyzed for a few seconds. Fantasies in fantasies. You will probably start to imagine some shadows after reading this article, and if you read it before bed, you will probably dream about them because you were thinking about them before you slept. In this context, we must be aware of some of the stories that were shared in the Middle Ages. They were talking about demonic entities sitting on the human chest, waking them up in the middle of the night. Of course, belief in such stories was particularly prevalent during that time. This may explain why so many reports were submitted at the time. It could also explain why the rates of shadow viewing in modern times are so high as an inescapable reality. Perhaps the most likely explanation is in the search for the truth of the shadow people. They are nothing more than the product of our human mind. There are many considerations that stem from this idea alone. The first consideration is to see people in the shadows and see things that don't exist. It may be due to stress, sleep deprivation, anxiety, or all of the above. The second is that many people with drug addiction may see shadow people. This is especially the case with psychedelic stimulant drugs that keep people in an overwakefulness state. Some researchers have suggested that shadow people are actually very normal humans. They just come here from another dimension. It's a proposal that is perhaps more mysterious than ghosts or aliens. However, it certainly might make us ask some interesting questions about the nature of our universe. For example, why would you visit us from other dimensions? Could they already be more advanced than us and come here to study for unknown reasons? Many scientists are seriously studying the fact that these dimensions exist. Perhaps one day the shadow people will prove that they are coming from these worlds. Who knows? All possibilities remain on the table until the correct explanation emerges. We mentioned above in our topic the idea that some people think that the people of the shadows are aliens. What's more, they're using advanced anonymity technology to make it invisible. This is an idea that sounds silly, even to many who believe in the possibility of alien life. However, modern science suggests that even with a stealth technique, it will not allow one to be made completely hidden. Scientists are confident that they are about to overcome this problem. They may have disappeared completely in the near future. Right now, some claim that shadow people are actually the results of an experimental anonymization technique possibly by intelligence agencies, but it is a theory that most people explicitly reject. Perhaps one of the most bizarre suggestions is that the people of the shadows are the result of the overlapping of the universes. These mysterious characters are very real people who exist in their dimensions or their world. This is different from the idea of entities from another dimension that we mentioned earlier. These observations of shadow people are not for these creatures to enter our world on purpose. They are a state caused by the overlapping of the universes, and just as they seem to us as a blinking error, we are the same thing to them. This may seem crazy at first, but the issues of multiple or parallel universes, as well as other dimensions, these are issues of strong interest and concern, and each of them has its own believing audience. So it could be the theory of overlapping universes, or to say, entangled universes, another one to be added to other theories that orbit the universe. Finally, whether you are convinced, dear listener, of the existence of beings called shadow people, or you were with the other team who described them as a joke or myth, or you're with people with gray orientations who are always neutral from what you hear and see. But when you see the smoke from afar, you will be sure there is a fire underneath it. As they say, no smoke without fire. Thank you for listening, and I hope you can share your opinion with comments so that we can know what you think. See you